This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Yep, here we go. You dialed it correctly to USAPrepares.com. Broadcasting 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 3 o'clock right here from the Ozark Mountains, Studio A. Information's on the website. And there's a link to your instructors, USAPrepares.com. Converging threats, confronted daily. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dave's producing the broadcast, the worldwide syndicated broadcast in Minnesota at Genesis Communications Network. I'll tell you what, class, I had a really neat opportunity to listen to a whole day of Genesis Communications Network over the weekend. We started broadcasting on Galaxy 19, a satellite. And so I got the satellite dish hooked up, connected the cable into the house, and just turned it on and ran it through the stereo system in the great room downstairs and the kitchen, and I just listened to a whole day of non-stop GCN. And I want to tell you, I'm not kidding. It's the finest radio I have ever heard. Non-stop truth, non-stop great opinions. I can't believe how many people are on Genesis, and we all think so similarly. It's amazing. It's really neat. So I'm going to have on with me, let me just check the schedule. I'm going to have on with me Wednesday afternoon at 3 o'clock on another network, Rick of Rick's Satellite. And he's the person I bought the satellite system from and installed it. And we're going to talk about it, but it is absolutely outstanding. And for those of you who have limited bandwidth on the internet and you want to listen to nonstop GCN, well, satellite antenna and receiver is a great option. It's about $200, pennies less than $200, but figure $200 plus some labor on your part to install it. And it was a very, very simple installation for me. It really was. And had I known one thing, just one thing, had I figured it out, I probably could have gotten the whole job done in a couple hours, literally a couple hours. Today we're going to be discussing survival economics with Frank Underhill. And, hey, Frank, welcome, Frank.
Good morning, Vincent. Glad to be here with you this morning.
Hey, Frank, tonight, you know what our meetups are like, but tonight we're going on a field trip. Tonight, USA Prepares is going to City Hall in Springfield. And those of you who listen to the afternoon broadcast sometimes hear me say, Greg Burris, he's the city manager of Springfield, Missouri. We pay him a couple $100,000 a year. He puts poison in the water, fluoride, and give him a call, 417-864-1001, and tell him he's fired for poisoning us. Well, tonight we are going to City Hall, and we're going to get a chance to introduce ourselves to Greg Burris and the rest of City Hall, and we want to tell him that we want fluoride out of the water. And we're not going to stop. And this is step one. Step one is saying hello. Step two is we want fluoride out of the water. Step three is we want our taxes reduced. And if those don't work, step number four, we replace our politicians with people who we like. So that's tonight. And maybe television will be there. I don't know. They've been told, every radio station in town has been told that USA Prepares is coming. And then one of our guys, if Frank, you might get a kick out of this. His name is David Klotz. You have not met him. He was supposed to be at the Get Prepared Expo, and he was really, really ill, and so he called in sick, and I believe he was really sick. So we didn't get a chance to meet him, but what he did was he and a few others of us decided that we've had enough of Walmarts in the city of Springfield. So we got enough signatures together to get the city to revisit it, and that's what they're going to talk about tonight. Do we have enough Walmart presence in the city of Springfield? And I was thinking about this over the weekend as I drive into the city of Springfield, and I'm going to drive in this afternoon. I'm going to be at the radio station in the studio. I don't always broadcast from the studio at KWTO, but I'm going to do that this afternoon. And as I drive in, I'm going to be going past a Walmart, which is opposite a Kmart. Now, if you wonder what has Walmart done, a striking example is you can look at Kmart right opposite, on the opposite side of the street as Walmart. Kmart has 1/100th the cars parked there that Walmart does. So if you wonder, does Walmart do any damage to competition? Even Kmart can't stand the competition from Walmart. Frank, your opinion, your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are, Vincent, I think you should be on the city council there in the mayor's office.
You know what happened? If I'd be all alone, I'd fire everybody. I would. I'd fire everybody. You know what happens? What happens with government, and I've seen this. A guy will get a job in government, and the first thing he or she will do is say, "Geez, I need more help. I need more help." And whenever I've been in business, I've always said, I need less help. As a matter of fact, and when you think about it, if you think about the Get Prepared Expo, we have other expos that are operating around the country, and they've got whole teams of people. They've got boards of directors and so forth. And for the Get Prepared Expo, it's just me and Mrs. Finelli helps me. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, we don't have 20 people that I can call on, and I like a really lean machine, and that's how I operate. And I can keep our prices very low, and we can. Well, there's some complaints about me surfacing in Springfield now. People don't like the way I operate. And I'm going to address it this week. I'm going to do an afternoon broadcast about who exactly is Vincent Finelli. I'm going to talk about my background and why I do things the way I do. As a matter of fact, I found out last night, a guy called me up and he said, there's a complaint about your expo and your business practices. And I said, really? And this person said, yeah. There are people who don't want to come to your expo because of what you do. You don't just let anybody in there. I go, yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't just let anybody in. I don't let politicians in. I don't let people in that want to sell Segway scooters. I don't let people selling timeshares come in. And other people say, yeah, but we want to sell food. And I go, yeah. Well, we have 3 food exhibitors. That's enough. That's enough. It's not a food show. It's not a generator show. It's not a wind turbine show. It's not a gardening show.
Pardon my laughing, but yeah, no, that's, I've been to your shows, and you have a very good, diverse group of exhibitors and speakers, and, I do see you're there at the front door greeting everybody personally. I don't see what's the matter with that.
Well, the matter with it is our detractors don't like the fact that it's not a free-for-all, that we don't I check out before someone becomes an exhibitor. They go through an interview process. It's kind of like it's like getting hired, because I don't want to make a mistake. And if my name is on the expo, the last thing I want to do is have somebody be an exhibitor at the expo that's either dishonest or doesn't have the integrity level that we demand. As a matter of fact, I even tell them what the prices are. I tell them that, okay, what, you can't sell anything. Everything that you sell has to be at the lowest price you offer, or you can't come to the expo.
And Vincent, is it fair to say that a lot of the exhibitors are also family-run businesses, small businesses, and what benefit is it having a big conglomerate appear at your expo? I think it would defeat the purpose of self-reliance.
This might get me in trouble, but I'll say it. I got a call from many calls from a very, very, very large gold and silver company. Really huge. And they wanted to come, and I said no. Nope. And they were shocked. They absolutely shocked. There are very, very large food distributors that want to come, and I tell them no. And they don't understand it. They don't understand that if they open up their wallet and they say, okay, here's 100 units, and I go, no, I can't do it because, we are full. We are absolutely full with food distribution. They'll say, well, okay, here's 150 units. And I go, no. They go, are you kidding? And I go, no, I'm not kidding. The bottom line is we are not motivated by money at all. And not everybody can understand that. So when we go to City Hall tonight, it's going to be very interesting because we can't be bought. They can't say, can we just give you a present and we please just go away? The answer is no. The answer is no. We don't want any more Walmarts. We've had it with Walmarts. Walmarts absolutely destroy the competition. If you look, they used to brag about how many jobs. Hey, we created 3 jobs in making light bulbs in the United States, or we created 7 jobs and we make light bulbs in the United States. All those jobs are gone. They shipped them over to China. Walmart is the Chinese factory outlet, and it is probably one of the single biggest factors in outsourcing jobs, our jobs, to China. And if you think about it, Frank, didn't you know people who either graduated high school or left high school early during their senior year, went to work at the factory because they could actually earn a living at a factory? They could actually provide for their family. They actually earned more than the rest of us did when they first started out. And, of course, those who got advanced degrees, made more money in the long run. But in the short run, you could actually live on a high school education and earn money. Did you know people who did that, Frank?
Well, it's a little bit different up there. I didn't know. Usually people finished till grade 12 and then got the job in the factory, because I think in those days, or even, a factory job was basically a trade job. You'd have to learn how to weld, and you'd have to know how to. So basically it was leaving high school and
Frank,
going
hold that thought.
either
Hold
to
that
trade
thought.
school.
Hold that thought. We'll talk about that when we come back. Frank Underhill. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us, and we're talking about the Chinese factory outlet. We're talking about going to say hi to City Hall and introduce ourselves. We're going to tell them who we are. We've had it. We have had it, and we're going to get fluoride out of the water. So some people say to me, and this is I've been criticized about this, why don't you just knock off the fluoride? Knock it off. And I go, no. No, as a matter of fact, we're not knocking off the fluoride because fluoride's making us dumb. It's reducing our IQs. It's calcifying the pineal gland. It's making us overweight, obese, lethargic. It is sapping our energy. It is sapping our enthusiasm. And as a matter of fact, if you look at young children today, what are they doing? What are young children doing? They're looking down at their phones. Show me a person under 20 years old, let's say between 15 and 20, who doesn't have a cell phone. Show me one. Show me one. They're looking down at their cell phones. They want to see if they got a message. They get a message yet? How about now? How about now? How about now? How about now? What's going on? I haven't gotten a message in like 30 seconds. What's wrong? I don't even know where my iPhone is. As a matter of fact, I need to call Roy Birdsong and get rid of my iPhone because I don't want to be tracked. But anyway, Frank Underhill and I are talking about leaving high school, what happened. And I remember during my high school years, people who went to public high school were able to leave and get a job. And they could be a welder, as you said, Frank. They could go work at the machine shop. We actually had machine shops. We actually repaired engines. We serviced vehicles. And you had to have skills in order to do those things, and you could actually make a living. But those jobs are now gone. They're gone. So buy a coffee maker? Sure. Try to get one that's not from China. Try. Try to get a DVD player, a stereo, a TV, even wrenches, hammers, levels. The tools that we use to build with come from Asia. Now, what doesn't come from Asia? Wood. Wood. We still grow wood here. And they don't grow very much wood there. So that's one thing that we've got. But Frank, what I was saying is, do you remember young people leaving high school, either their senior year or after?
If they would leave high school, usually people would finish school. So it's a different structure up there. Do people do tend to finish school, and then you go to trade school, or if you're smart, you can go to a college, or if you're even smarter, you can go to university. But even there, they are beginning to have seat sales in high schools and in universities to foreign students. And they say that, well, this money that they'll be paying will help the school boards out or help continuing education out, where what we see is the exact opposite. It only harms the enrollments because and property taxes go up. If you're a citizen there and you live in that area, you might have your seat forced out to a foreign student whose parents live in the area that you're describing to pay for seats. And frankly, I think it's abysmal having a seat sale. I think you need to educate your own population first before you go and educate populations from other locales.
Frank, years ago, back in the 1970s, actually, let me take it back even farther. In the 1960s, I went to elementary school with a young man whose father owned a tool and die manufacturing company. It was a small one, and it was on their small farm on the East Coast. And so they had a shop where they made tools that made tools. So you could go to this tool and die shop, and they had mechanical engineers there, and they would design the tools to make other tools. It was absolutely brilliant. So in order to manufacture, you need tools to make tools. What I saw was that shop close, and a lot of other shops closed. So and I thought about this as I was in college in the 1970s, I thought, this is really a bad signal. Because when you start closing down the companies that make the tools, you're going to lose industry. And when you lose industry, you're going to lose jobs. And when you lose jobs, you're going to lose wealth. And then the country will spiral down, down, down into the abyss. And that's where we're going. I'm Vin Finelli. Frank Underhill. I'd like to talk about silver. What happened on Sunday to silver? You won't believe it. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us. Frank, I was looking at the markets over the weekend, and Sunday at 6 o'clock, silver dropped 6% in 6 minutes. 1% per minute. I mean, it straight down. I mean, when you talk about going off the cliff, this was literally straight down. 6% in 6 minutes. How much? Well, it went from $22.25 down to $21. Bob Chapman talked about that. Frank?
It's amazing, Vincent. What you're seeing is a exit en masse from the metal due to the fact that with the high margins, gold's underperformance, silver is more hedged. It's probably the heaviest hedged metal out there right now. And you're seeing a lot of people basically just exiting from the silver right now, and even silver miners are taking it on the chin. But I believe that when the dollar starts to weaken, and the dollar, the dollar weakens, I think you'll start to see, interest back into these metals. But right now, they're just so out of favor. And, of course, there's margin selling. And when you have margin selling, well, that only compounds a problem even more so.
Well, I checked with a silver and gold dealer over the weekend. And we were on the phone. And I said, okay. So silver is down, almost down to $20 an ounce. Let's talk about silver dollars. He said, okay, ugly silver dollars are available right now for $25. Ugly ones that no one wants. If you want one that's okay, $30. If you want one that's really nice, we're looking at $35 to $40. And if you want an uncirculated, you're looking at around $45 to $50. So at silver, with silver prices at $21, ugly silver dollars were selling at around, let's say, 3/4 of an ounce of silver content in an ugly silver dollar, $25, with the silver price at $21. The bottom line is premiums are high. And I believe in physical silver, and I believe that's because anyone who really has it doesn't want to let it go at these ridiculously low prices. And I believe this is a market manipulation to drive silver out of our hands. And Gresham's law, bad money drives out good money. Bad money drives out good money. And it's working.
Well, you're also, on the other side of the coin, you're also seeing buyers buying this as well, too, or traders are buying it. So it's totally not a falling knife. There are investors, and generally I think you'll start to see long-term players step back in again, too.
Well, it makes sense. It makes sense to me. I don't want to hold frauds, Federal Reserve Accounting Unit dollars. I don't want to hold them. I would much rather hold something of real value. I would much rather have a tractor. I'd much rather have a four-wheel drive vehicle. I'd much rather have an outdoor wood furnace. I'd much rather have no debt than Federal Reserve Unit dollars, frauds, Federal Reserve Unit Accounting dollars.
I was at the money show here in Las Vegas last week, and there's quite a demand for a lot of vendors selling or offering safekeeping, and not just for gold or silver, but for people's tungsten, people's molybdenum, people's other metals as well, copper coins, and they're saying store it in our vault, and this company had a vault in one of the islands off in the Channel Islands, and then they had another vault, I think, in Panama, where you can keep your physical metal and ship it off to.
Oh, Frank, it's crazy to me. We don't trust our own banks, okay? So I can't understand. If you're going to have physical assets, I mean, I cannot imagine saying, I'll tell you what, I'm really worried about that tractor. We've got a thief in the neighborhood. That darn thing might get stolen in the middle of the night. Let me put it in someone else's.
Panama.
Okay, so the tractor scenario makes no sense, right? Okay, so let's say Mrs. Finelli has a gold wedding band, and she does, and it's an heirloom. It's nothing special. It's not very fancy. It's just a plain band. It's just a plain band. So, as simple as that. Now, is there some value to it? Sure. It has some value, just like anybody else's wedding band. As a matter of fact, probably most of them have more value than this does, because this is just plain old 14 karat. Well, the bottom line is, there's no way that I would say, or she would say, this is so valuable, we have to entrust this to somebody we don't know. Not only don't we know them, they're in a foreign country that we can't get to. Not only that, we have to pay them to store it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So the same thing would hold true of silver dollars, silver bullion, copper, for me, any of that stuff. I think it needs to be under our own control, or it's hard to say we own it if it's not under our own control.
That's accurate. That's accurate. And, can I also say, too, that if people look at a gold chart or silver chart, these metals have always had this kind of a sell-off before the next leg up for a bull market again, too.
I'm glad you said that. I really am, because I remember buying silver at 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, all the way up to 30. Then it slid down, backward, all the way down to 10. And I remember talking with Mrs. Finelli about this, and I said, well, we've lost half. And she said, no, we haven't. No, we haven't. We didn't sell anything. And then it went all the way back up. And so it's up and it's down. And I would like to suggest, class, that if you decide to partake in this, or if you're already in this market, the gold and silver physical market, that you don't get into it with anything that you need to live on. This is for the long run. So if this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not like land. And by the way, if you notice, politicians seem to have great luck in buying land. They seem to know how to pick the perfect parcel just before a shopping center moves in, or just before a road is expanded or widened. They know how to do that. It's amazing the intuition they have, politicians. It's amazing how wealthy they get just knowing what to buy. Well, that's because they have inside information. Now, gold and silver, unless you have inside information, which is really hard to get, and I don't have any, I really don't, it's for the long run. It's for the long run. And I'll tell you what, I don't know if I ever told you this story, Frank. I was talking to Bob Chapman one day off the air, and I mentioned that I had some Weimar inflationary currency. I had all the examples of it, from 1 mark all the way up to 2 trillion marks. And I sent a package of it to one of his family members because I wanted to say thank you to him for being on the air with me. And we talked about it. And, as the notes became higher and higher in denomination, they became smaller and smaller, and less effort was put into the engraving of them. So the lower denominations were better looking, better crafted, larger. The newer ones with the higher denominations, I'm talking about like not 1 mark or 2 mark or 50 marks, the ones that were in the millions of marks or the tens of millions or the hundreds of millions of marks or the trillions became smaller and smaller and smaller. And the reason I'm mentioning this, the package that I sent to him, to one of Bob Chapman's relatives, was not worth very much money, only as a curiosity. But had you had it in gold or silver, it'd be worth a fortune. So as we look at this going forward, these guys are trying to convince us, the system is trying to convince us, that paper or digital currency is where it's at. That's the safe bet. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. So a conceptual tractor is worth more than a physical tractor. Absolute nonsense.
Well, I saw this when, back in the 90s when we had the tech boom and everybody was writing off gold as dead, and gold and silver and oil are all crushed and, past a thing of the past. Only, 10, 12, 13 years later where you saw gold, move up again. So if gold is an obsolete currency, or silver, then why would it move up when you have all more science now than ever evolving around us, where you see people? So, this story's been said many times before.
You're talking about gold being used in industrial applications, high technology electronics.
Gold has its relevancy in the monetary system, because gold would go up, and then when Clinton came in, of course, gold got crushed, and then of course here we are here in 2013. Gold is still high now. It's a lot higher than it was 13 years ago, but it's still a bit down from what it was before. In other words, the story on gold is timeless. It keeps going and going and going, whether it's in the German, during those dark days over in Europe. But like you said, the gold coin would be worth a lot more money. And even today, how gold is still a sought-after currency. It's just out of favor right now compared to, and again, because the dollar is up, and they have you believing that the dollar is relevant, and hence people should be holding dollars.
Yep. Well, I think Bob Chapman was right. Keep the minimum in the bank, the minimum for 30 days worth of transactions, and the rest have in physical assets. I'm Vin Finelli, Frank Underhill, USAPreparedness.com. We'll be right back. Class, the more articles I read in the current news, the more I see the word intimidation. And, of course, we have the trifecta. We have the IRS. IRS is investigating people who are conservatives. We have the Department of Justice investigating what they call the Associated Press wire leaks. And, of course, we have the Benghazi scandal. So that's the trifecta of scandals for this particular administration. The word intimidation seems to be used a lot with in relationship to this current administration. And what I've noticed, I went to see an article just a couple seconds ago during the break about the smoking gun on the Drudge Report about the IRS scandal. You can't get to the article. You can't get to it. It times out. And what I've noticed is articles disappear very quickly on the news. Here's something that I find very interesting. Frank, we spend a lot of time reading the news and posting articles on USAPrepares.com. So we post the articles that we think people ought to consider reading. Conspiracy fact. And more and more articles are now saying that they are copyrighted and they are now prohibited from reproduction, redistribution, rebroadcasting, or being rewritten. Articles are saying, you cannot do that. It would be a copyright infringement, so we don't. But what I'm saying is the news is being managed more and more and more. And now sources are so concerned that they don't even want to talk about what's happened to them. Larry Connors, KMOV broadcaster in St. Louis, Missouri. I called him last week. I didn't get to talk to him, but I called his office and I wanted to invite him to be on the air with us. And a half hour later, I received a call back that no, he's not going to be on the air. And then I got a call from his attorney's office shortly, or the next day or day after, and he is not giving any interviews. He's not giving any interviews. Now, why is that? Why is it that he's been targeted by the Internal Revenue Service and he has been advised by KMOV not to give any interviews? I guess his job's in jeopardy. Interesting, isn't it? So the news, I think we're going to see more and more pressure to prevent us from reporting things on government health care, inflation, what's happening with our money supply, our monetary system. And I think we're going to be in the dark more and more and more. And eventually, I think one day the switch is going to be thrown and the internet, for our own safety, the internet's going to be shut off so we don't hurt ourselves. Frank, what do you think?
Well, there's definitely a movement to censor or clamp down on the quote managed media, which I like to refer it to. This individual that you're talking about, he's probably got a distinguished career in broadcasting, and
yes.
And I would hazard to guess that they do not want people like him on the airwaves. They would rather have him replaced with a more of a liberalized, slanted person to give their more globalistic views on events.
I'll tell you what's happening. This is it's really disturbing to me. I'll tell you what. Instead of rushing through it, we have maybe 20 seconds left of this hour. I'll tell you what I learned over the weekend about broadcasting. It has nothing to do with Genesis Communications Network. It has to do with mainstream media. Very, very disturbing. You're going to be shocked. When I tell you this, you're going to say, wow. No kidding. I'm Vin Finelli, Frank Underhill, CEO, UnderhillSecurities.com. We'll be right back. Frank Underhill's with us. This is hour number 2 of USAPrepares.com. And I wanted to share something with you. It's disturbing to me. I was talking with one of USAPrepares.com over the weekend. And we were talking about a gun show. And what happened was he was informed by some of the staff that promoted this gun show. We bought a radio program. Well, that doesn't seem too far out of the norm. You've heard those broadcasts, those hour-long or half-hour-long broadcasts on the weekend for buy this supplement and you will be really healthy. But wait, not only will you get one, but if you act right now, we'll ship you the second one for free. Or those kinds of radio broadcasts, paid radio programs. Well, what's happening is those kinds of programs, infomercials as you might call them, as I call them, are not only on the weekends. They are now moving into mainstream Monday through Friday programming. And it's really hard to tell that somebody is paying somebody to be on the air. So what you may think is an interview might be an infomercial. And I find that very disturbing. I really do. I find that highly disturbing. Because you know a commercial, when we have commercials here on Genesis, you know what a commercial is. And I want you to know that I have never accepted money for any of those who are on the air with me. The reason that I have people on the air with me is, number one, I like them. Number two, I think that we're sharing some information that you might not otherwise know. We have experts. There are about 150 of us. There are about 150 of us. And we talk about things like gardening and seeds and energy. And we talk about gold. And we talk about all kinds of neat things. And I invite those I really like to be at the expo to give seminars on things that I believe you need to know about. And so you can ask them questions one-on-one. But to sell 15 minutes or a half hour or an hour, I have a problem with that. I really do. So I wanted to share that with you, that that's happening right now. And during the top of the hour news, you heard on SRN News the words violating the public trust. We're talking about the Internal Revenue Service. Last week, I posted on the website on May 15th, 5 days ago. I posted this on the website, and I read it out loud twice. Vincent Finelli, USAPrepares.com, challenge to Missouri lawmakers. It's very simple. It's one sentence. It says, to introduce, discuss, and pass the following law. Now here's what I'd like to see as a law. It's one sentence. Here it goes. Any Missouri state representative who votes for any bill to become law without fully reading every word of the bill and without understanding every word of the bill is guilty of violating the public trust and will be charged with a felony requiring imprisonment for not less than 10 years. Let me read that again. It's on the website, and I suggest that you go to it. It's page 2. Any Missouri state representative who votes for any bill to become law without fully reading every word of the bill and without understanding every word of the bill is guilty of violating the public trust and will be charged with a felony requiring imprisonment for not less than 10 years. Does anybody have any problems with that? Isn't that what you thought you were electing to represent your interest? Someone who would read these bills before voting on them? That's what we thought. These bums need to be fired. Every one of them. We need to fire every one of them. And some people would say, yeah, but there are a few that are good. Well, yeah, but if we fire every one of them, we'll be sure to get rid of all the bums. Okay? I'd like to suggest you consider sharing that with all of those on your email distribution list. It's a very simple one-sentence proposed bill that we make that law. That if you, as a representative, sign anything that you haven't fully read and fully understood, you are guilty or can be charged with a felony and requiring imprisonment for not less than 10 years. Kind of like Nancy Pelosi. Sign it and then we'll let you know what's in it. I have never signed a contract that I haven't read. Frank, let's talk about that. Would you sign a contract that you have not read?
I come from the point where I don't like to sign any contracts. If my handshake is my word, is my bond, and if I get forced in, if I have to sign something, I'd rather refrain from engaging in whatever the contract pertains to. When I bought my car, I paid cash. And they still want me to go through all this work. They actually, the only form they really wanted me to sign was a form saying that I would, if I did sue them, I'd sue them in the state of New York, or they wouldn't sell me the car. Well, I like the car, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it, so I didn't mind signing it. And if I did have a problem with it, then I guess I'd have to go to New York. But on that note, everything is so complex, and I never signed a legal disclaimer in my life buying a car. But this is where the end of the road is. This is why I believe we're circling the drain here.
Interesting
Everything
point.
is a contract.
Interesting point. I wanted to do an exchange, a barter, if you will, with a company in Springfield, Missouri. The barter was very, very simple. Very simple. I was looking to find someone to do graphics work for me. So if any of you out there are good in graphics and you'd like to barter, I would love to chat with you. Just send me an email at vincent@usaprepares.com or call me, and I'll call you back after the broadcast. 417-462-1105.
Could I even go on like even in my profession, I don't have any contracts holding clients to meet specific goals, like saying you got to put so much in every month or every year, or what the fees are and all that. That's just the way I do business. When you go into a firm, they want you with a registered investment advisor and manage this money and your responsibilities, your obligations, you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The onus is all of a sudden on the client.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in that position where I have to put the onus on anybody.
Yep. Well, let me tell you about this little barter. All I wanted was someone to help me with some graphics. Very simple. One page. And I said I would do certain things. And the guy said, okay, well, here's what we'll do. We'll write this up, and I'll send you a contract, and we'll make sure that, we agree on all the terms and all that. And I said, no. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to spend the time reading a contract. That'll take longer than it'll take to do this job. I am not interested. So here we have a guy who could have been involved with us, who is more interested in protection and more interested in legalese than doing the job. So I said, forget it. Never mind. I'll pay you for it. And so that's what we did. But I'm looking for somebody else. I would love to find a graphics artist person who can work with me on the telephone and across the internet through email. So if you are that person and you want to be associated with usapreparedness.com, I'd love to talk with you. So we have become so embroiled in legalese, and there are two kinds of lawyers. And I was slated to go to law school, and I was shaving one day, and I looked in the mirror and I said, geez, I can't do that. I can't be a lawyer. I was looking at myself in the mirror thinking, how could I possibly be a lawyer and look at myself in the mirror? And so I didn't pursue that career. I was all set. I mean, there was a law firm that wanted to hire me as a real estate attorney. Now, this would, I'm not talking about a criminal attorney. I'm talking about one of the guys who actually does paperwork and filing and that kind of stuff to make sure that real estate transactions are recorded and the buyer knows what he's getting and so forth. But I decided I didn't even want to get that close to being a lawyer. I got an email from a guy, and this guy has been on television. He's one of us. He's been on television. Really good guy. And I'm kind of grinning as I read this, because this guy, I'm not going to say he's a troublemaker, but he's just one of us who just has a real tough time taking direction. He really does. He doesn't like taking direction that is wrong, okay? But he will go to the end of the earth to help somebody. And so I posted this on the website, and it says, shoot, I guess I should look at the clock. It's a letter to the U.S. Census that this person wrote. I'll read this to you, and I'd love to hear your reaction to this, Frank Underhill, underhillsecurities.com. It's going to be a letter to the U.S. Census. This guy is right in the same page I'm on. We'll be right back. This is a great letter to the U.S. Census, and it was written not by me. But I can just see myself writing this. But it was written by someone else, and this man is absolutely brilliant. He's been on television. I'm not going to reveal who he is, but he's one of us. He's been to all the expos, and if you've been to the expos, you met him. There's no question about it. Very unassuming, very professional gentleman. Here it is. Vinny. During the 2000 census, I was working for a company in Kansas, living by myself in a small house during the week and commuting home to the city every weekend. I kept getting notes left on my front door by a census worker with her business card attached, demanding that I fill out the census long form. I had already filled out and returned the first census form I received, but only the info I provided, as required by law, was how many people lived at that address. 1. Apparently, my address was one of the lucky ones randomly selected in depth for data mining. After the fourth time receiving a census note on my door, I wrote a memo, printed it out, stapled it to the last note she left, and left it for her to find on her next visit. She always came by when I was gone. The memo went something like this. To whom it may concern, a request for the census long form to be filled out by the occupant at this address has been received. The request for provision of data beyond what is required by law of U.S. citizens. This request is for the provision of data beyond what is required by law of U.S. citizens, and thus it may be considered to be a request for consulting services. My fee for consulting is $250 per hour. Due to the issues of extensive bureaucratic red tape and slow payment, I have a 2-hour minimum fee for government entities, payable by cash in advance. If the U.S. Census Bureau desires to retain my consulting services, please provide the contact information with a direct phone number and email address for a Census Bureau official who is authorized to obligate funds for this purpose. Regards, and it was signed by one of us at usaprepares.com. What do you think, Frank?
Wow, what can you say?
Pretty cool, huh?
It is,
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, you met this guy. Yeah, I'm not going to disclose who he is on the air, but I asked him if I could publish that on the website, usaprepares.com, and he said, he responded with one word, sure. Now, at that same year, I got a call from, the story is really simple. Mrs. Finelli came into my area of the company. She and I had a computer manufacturing company back then. She came over to my desk and said, here, this is for you. And it was an agricultural census form. And it was the long form. It was like, I think it was like 30 pages, 32 pages, either 16 or 32 pages. And I looked at it, and I said, thank you. In the trash it went. And they harassed me. They harassed me for months. They called me up. They told me they were going to put me in prison. I said, come on, come and get me. Go ahead. Come and get me. You guys know where I am. So I responded a little bit differently. I dragged it out, and I said, well, geez, why don't you send me one? And they go, okay. And they called me like a month later, and they said, where is it? We haven't gotten it. Oh, why don't you send it to me? So I dragged it out, and then finally I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Come get me. So, This letter is absolutely brilliant. I love it. Charging them for it because it is requesting information above and beyond what they are legally entitled to know. And they're only legally entitled to know how many people live at that address at that particular point in time. That's it. That's all. And they have come to my house. They have come to this farm right here in Missouri. They've come to the farm twice. And they wanted information. One Census Bureau worker was so afraid because I came outside with my .45 in my holster. She wasn't used to being greeted that way. Not that I brandished it. I didn't even touch it. It just happened to be something I was wearing, just like I'm wearing it right now. Right now. Frank Underhill, Vin Finelli. Well, let's talk about what's happening with finance in Las Vegas. We'll be right back. Las Vegas, builders are starting to start up. Frank Underhill's with us. Frank, what's happening in Las Vegas?
Well, there's a bit of a pulse. An acquaintance of mine worked on a subdivision in Summerlin, and they stopped all construction about 2.5 years ago, and houses went from 500 to 800, and then down to as low as 180,000. and a lot of this backlog has seemed to have been absorbed, and now the builder wants to finish the development off. So after a 2.5-year hiatus, he and other tradespeople are apparently back to work.
Frank, so let me see if I've got this right. So the price a couple of years ago, a little over 2 years ago, of this particular neighborhood, $500,000 for a house and lot, right?
Correct.
It went up to $800,000 for the same $500,000 house. It peaked at about $800,000.
Yes.
Okay, and then it went down to $180,000.
And as recently as a month ago, a house sold for $186,000. And I think that was the last sale, and I think there's no more inventory in there, and now the builder is starting up to finish off the project. So that's correct, yes.
So let me see if I've got this right. So a $500,000 house peaked at $800,000, went down to $180,000, which is 1/4 of the price of the peak, and the $186,000 last sale is still below 1/4 of the peak. So what do you have a feel for what he's asking for new construction? Will they be smaller in square footage, or smaller, or will they be lower in cost of construction, meaning less cost per square foot by taking out either amenities or elements of quality?
Well, I think these are like standalone houses, but they have no backyard to them, and they all have shared common areas like pool and fitness center. And I think that they can probably build it, just in my assumption, maybe for that like 180, and they could probably get like 300, 350 for it. And when they started building these places 11 years ago, they were selling, the developer was selling it for like 300, 310. So they probably think they can still get those, low 300s and just wash their hands of the project and recoup whatever is left to salvage. But it is a start.
So, Frank, let me see if I've got this right. Are you saying that the developer has ownership in the land, and he's got to do something with the land? So in order to get away from this project, he has to build improvements on the land, which would be housing, and that is the game plan?
Well, yeah, and it'll make the area a lot nicer, and
sure,
and it'll clear up that eyesore there.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about housing that has these community amenities, like the tennis court, like the community pool, with the and bear in mind there are costs that are part of that, meaning everybody pays for the tennis court, everybody pays for the swimming pool, everybody pays for the maintenance of those amenities, right?
Right.
How do you feel? Do you have that in your neighborhood where you have those amenities, or are there standalone pools? And if someone wants a tennis court, they have to have enough land for it, or they go to, use some other tennis court.
Well, this kind of lifestyle is very popular here, especially amongst baby boomers that like the amenities. And I don't want to say it's a social club. People keep to themselves, but basically there is a fitting for that. And as for the no backyard business, well, in the summertime it's just so darn hot, where nobody goes in their backyard anyways. Mm-hmm. And for some people it's a good lifestyle, and for others, say like yourself, it probably wouldn't fit for you. But that master plan community is like I said, it's for baby boomers, and I don't want to say first time home buyers, because when you have kids and all this stuff, it would get cumbersome living in a place like that.
Let me ask you this: what would the amenity fee be for someone who lives in one of these properties with no backyard, but they do have a community pool and community tennis court? Is it $100 a month? Is it $200 a month?
200. I'd say about the 200, 220. But you got to bear in mind, they come and they trim the trees, they mow the lawn, they keep the pool in good standing, they clean, they look after the equipment in the health club. There's internet, Wi-Fi in there, and exercise equipment, and also there's a guard at the front of the gate, and so nobody comes and goes, at free will. There's a check in there, and but if you like that, then it's ideal. But it's, again, when you look at how much it costs to maintain a home anyways. So if you're not able to maintain your own property, this would probably be the way to go for you, especially with the added convenience of 24/7 security.
Yeah, and I just did a quick calculation. If at the tax rate that many people pay, they would have to earn an extra $6,000 to $9,000 per year gross just to pay the amenity fee of $2,000 to $3,000 a year. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for some people that makes a lot of sense. For me, I'd rather say, $9,000. I'll tell you what, I think I'll put my own pool in. But I'd make sure I had a property that I could put my own pool in, and then I would use the pool as a heat sink, and I'd dump the heat from the house into the pool.
Ah.
Seriously, I mean that's how I would do that. I would certainly use the pool to dump the heat and. Save on air conditioning costs, but you can't dump all the heat from the house into the pool. Otherwise, you'd be boiling the water in the pool. Frank, the dollar. We are pumping into digits into circulation. And it is inflationary. I'm looking at gasoline prices. I heard someone say at a meetup that gasoline went up almost 50 cents in one day here in Missouri. Have you heard of anything like that out your way?
Well, it was down to three and a quarter, and now it's $3.45 a gallon.
Okay, so it's not quite so bad there. $3.25 to $3.45. It's still a pretty big jump as a percentage, not quite 10%, but those are big percentages. Just like the gold percentage silver moving 1% per minute down for 6 minutes, losing 6% as we talked about the first hour. Okay, so what do you think is going to happen? What do you see? Well, is it if the Fed stops pumping or when the Fed stops pumping?
I think it's when the Fed stop pumping. I think they'll stop pumping when they start to see some buoyancy and the markets can be weaned off the nipple, if you will. Mm-hmm. And I think that even a sign of this would probably even be helpful to the metals as well. Okay, so when they stop pumping. Yeah, that makes sense. Less. You'll see prices go down and yields go up. You'll see the dollar go down. Yes.
Okay. Well, Frank, do you think there's any risk for those who are holding precious metals right now, meaning physical gold or physical silver or physical platinum? In the long run, and let's make the long run 10 years. Do you think there's any risk that they're going to get hurt, in your opinion?
Well, the biggest risk for physical holders, of course, would be the end-all confiscation. Mm-hmm. And it's very hard to predict what will happen. Anything can happen. With the dollar, if the dollar does go higher, then you would probably see more of an erosion in holding it. So you have confiscation risk, you got dollar erosion risk, and that's pretty well what we're looking at today. So we have two things that are still with us. The dollar is going higher, and people who, as of this day, own physical, they're not being confiscated. But again, 10 years is a long time frame horizon to predict.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, back in the 1930s, when our government made it illegal for people to own non-numismatic gold bullion, they were faced with going to jail if they didn't turn it in, massive fines and arrest, jail time for not turning their gold in. And people were pretty polite back then. They were willing to wait in bread lines. They were willing to wait in soup kitchen lines. I wonder how long people would wait in line today for bread or soup and actually we don't, because we get cards now and they look like credit cards and they are food stamp. You can buy food with them that comes from the government. But I wonder how long people would think about turning in their gold or their silver to the government if the government said, you will do this. I wonder how long they would think about it. And I wonder if they would. I don't think they would, Frank.
Well, you saw this in fascist Germany, where Jews were handing over their gold and silver and everything, at gunpoint. And, in the end, as you know, that didn't help them out. It is possible.
Well, why would it be just gold or gold and silver or gold and silver and platinum? Why would it be limited to that? Why not ammunition? Why not firearms? Why not pressure cookers?
Because those would already be removed out of the way before that. That's why.
That's a really good point. Frank Underhill, he's the CEO of Underhill Securities.com. And I'd like to talk about some items we have on the website when we come back. Interesting items. And you can read the posts on the website, usaprepares.com. Class, we've got a meetup tonight. And we're not going to be at the restaurant. We're going to be at City Hall. So meet up tonight, City Hall, Springfield, Missouri, 6:30. We're going to make our introductions to the city council and to Greg Burris, the city manager. We want to say hello, tell them who we are, and we're going to be on our best behavior. And we just want them to know that the next time we see them, we'll be on the agenda, and we're going to be talking about fluoride. So tonight, we're going to say hello. Television might be there. We're going to be talking about Walmart. We are in support of no more Walmarts in Springfield, Missouri. Now, why do we do this? Well, if we do this in Springfield, Missouri, a small city, this is the example by which you can follow. And you can do it where you live. All it takes is a little bit of effort. You have to put down the TV remote. And I know most of you don't watch TV because you're listening to Genesis Communications Network. You get your news from great sources. And we're going to have some fun tonight. So we're going to see how government works. Springfield, Missouri, 6:30, City Hall, downtown Springfield. And Frank Underhill's with us. Frank, there's a post on the website, contactless credit cards. Now, what's happening in the United Kingdom is people have their credit cards in their wallets or in their purses or on their person. And they go up to the cashier and they pull out, let's say, a debit card. And they swipe it. But before they know what's happened, the transaction is against another card, one that they did not authorize, that is in their pocketbook, their purse, or their wallet. And they say within 11 inches of the reader. So now cards are being read remotely without being contacted, without being swiped. That is a huge concern to me. That means that if I'm walking around and I have one of these credit cards that this could happen with, charges could be made to my card as I walk by. It's an outrage. One more reason to do what you do, Frank, and that is avoid the use of credit cards.
Yep. Completely. Vince, can I just go back to your meetup at City Hall? Are people encouraged to bring assault rifles and firearms, or do they have to leave them at home?
They have to leave them at home. No, government buildings do not allow, or the people who work in government buildings do not allow you to bring your weapons. Now, they have theirs. They have theirs. They have the police, and they are there for everybody's safety. Okay, they're allowed to bring weapons, but we, the community, are not. So we're not bringing firearms to City Hall.
Well, they can stand outside the building with them, right?
Well, they can walk outside, yeah, but that's not what we're doing. We're going to, tonight. We're going to learn about government. We're going to see our politicians in action. We're going to see what they do, what they say. We're going to watch their movements. We're going to watch their hand signals. We're going to take their pictures, and we're going to learn who they are. Because the next time we come, we'll be on the agenda, and when we're on the agenda, we're going to talk about fluoride. And we are going to put them on the hot seat. We're going to say, here's the science, here's what we know, here's Dr. Norman Shealy, here's what we want you to do. We want fluoride out of our water. We want you to stop poisoning our children, our parents, our friends, our neighbors, and us. And if we ship products that are food products that are manufactured in Springfield, Missouri, we want you to stop poisoning people that consume those food products that are outside and inside the community. We don't want Subway and Ziggy's and McDonald's and the other restaurants in town to use water that has fluoride in it. We don't want that. And one of the things that we're going to explain to them is that we're going to bring our own water or our own beverages to restaurants until they join in with this get fluoride out of the water. Frank Underhill, it's been great having you with us on usaprepares.com. You can contact Frank Underhill at underhillsecurities.com. If you'd like to call him, I'll give you his number. 702-987-5449. 702-987-5449. Underhillsecurities.com. Link on the website. We'll be at the City Hall Council meeting tonight, 6:30. Above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.